Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and I2Y TV interview. I'm welcoming Geoff Schomburgk back. He's the Regional Vice President for APJ at Yubico, a global cybersecurity company and inventor of the YubiKey, the gold standard for phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication, and who joins us to talk about the Security in Education sector program that Yubico has. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here again, Alex. Good to see you.
Thank you for taking the time. Now, Geoff, before we get into the detail about security and education, can you please just briefly recap the biggest developments of Yubico from the past year?
Well, I think obviously in the title there, my role is Asia Pacific, and what we've seen is really an explosion of awareness of phishing-resistant MFA, passkeys is the term. It's a lot simpler to use. Across our region. And certainly that's been aided a lot by two things. One, there's an increase in the number of phishing attacks. AI has really accelerated and turbocharged the phishing attacks we're seeing, and language is no longer a barrier. So, Vietnam, Japan, these places where language has always been a barrier for the hackers, not anymore. And in response to that, we've seen a lot of governments start to increase regulation to encourage, in some cases, enforce in others, the adoption of phishing-resistant MFA or passkeys across a range of industry sectors. So that's been good for business for Yubico, but equally it's good for the industry that we're starting to see a much stronger response to the increase in phishing attacks.
Yeah, well, it's been a wake-up call, and the good news is people are waking up.
They are finally, and that's good. And hopefully, the work that we've been doing and the momentum that the tech industry has gained is starting to get people to take notice and take action.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're here to talk about the education sector, which for me was paper, books, pens, and pencils during my K-12 education. I was dreaming of having a laptop and didn't really get one until after I had finished school. But computers were, for me, only in dedicated computer classes. I remember in 1983, I think, I saw my first Apple II computers, and we had dedicated classes. But this is utterly unlike today, where laptops and tablets and Chromebooks reign supreme. So, what's the short story of the security situation for the education sector today?
Yeah, well, you touched on it, that the classroom now, the environment that children are learning in is much more digital. In some cases, fully digital. But the challenge is that security hasn't kept pace with that. And that, I think, as we were saying before, the attack surface has expanded with so many students and teachers and staff having access to this technology, which is great from a learning point of view. But it brings with it that downside risk of much more vulnerable.
Well, that means that education is a soft target, and that's clearly one of the reasons why criminals are exploiting this sector.
Yes, I'd like to see there's a gold mine of data that is available. We're talking about young children. We know in the Australian context, some of the laws around social media to try and protect students online. But student data about their contact details, their address, in some cases, personal or health-related information of students. In many cases, their parents' details and often bank card, credit card information. So there's a lot of information out there that the attackers are really after, and that's what they're looking to get their hands on.
Yeah. So what are the real cyber hygiene gaps in schools and tertiary institutions? I mean, presumably this goes beyond traditional MFA and password policies no longer being sufficient. I mean, as we've seen, cyber hygiene hasn't been a nice to have option for years, but here we are and we're still talking about it.
Yeah, look, I think the biggest gap that we see can be summarized as identity security, securing your login credentials, because we know that that's how the attackers get in. 80% of data breaches still today are as a result of our login credentials somehow being compromised. Either it's been leaked out onto the dark web, or the prevalence of AI-generated phishing attacks is making it easier for the attackers to get that information. So, securing that login is what we have to respond so that we can stop a lot of these data breaches and phishing attacks before they happen.
Yeah. And before we talk about low friction controls, I mean some of those attacks are actually not just cyber attackers from different countries or whatever it might be, but sometimes it's the students themselves wanting to improve their
Yeah.
scores. I mean, there's been movies about that. I think Ferris Bueller's Day Off was one of them. I think, but I mean, I've heard about the students, logging in, changing their scores to be
Yeah.
well beyond passing grades. And I mean, I haven't heard that for a while, but that's clearly still something that schools need to protect against.
Yeah, look, and I don't want to downplay the severity of that, but in our world we would call that an insider threat. The biggest risk that we see is the external threat from attackers coming from outside to get that those credentials, that information that's there to do malicious things with it. The changing of your grades, whilst that's not a good thing, and I wouldn't condone that, that's certainly I think a smaller risk in the context of the number of students that are potentially vulnerable and their information being abused.
Yeah. So, what practical low friction control should education providers be prioritizing so that students and staff are able to balance a genuine security upgrade that they want to use and that they're happy to use?
Yes. Look, we have to stop the credentials and the data breaches in their tracks, and we think that implementing passkeys, phishing resistant MFA, is one of the easiest things to implement. It's been designed from the outset to be frictionless, easy to use. The term passwordless that many people use, that really captures the essence of frictionless. Get away with passwords, get away with having to change passwords and remember passwords, and use a technology that is very, very secure, and it's been designed to be that. It is available on all the platforms that are in use in school environments today. Browsers, operating systems, Mac OS and Androids and what have you, and Windows. So, it's available at scale. It is highly secure and it is frictionless. It's a lot easier to log in with a passkey where you just simply insert a physical security key like a YubiKey, either enter a PIN or use a biometric, and that's it. The tech does the rest.
Now, I know you obviously focus on UB keys, but do you have any other thoughts on what else the education sector needs to do to maintain the security of its operations, its records,
Yeah.
as we just spoke about the students wanting to change those if they can, but also teaching and other data that we need to know and you haven't yet mentioned?
Yeah. Well, I think what we see and what we're trying to encourage is moving the narrative away from this is a technical issue. I have to do the latest upgrade or I've got to implement something, to making it at least a management or a board level issue and a discussion there that cybersecurity in its whole context is something that needs to be addressed. And I think the cyber insurers would agree. So, taking a holistic approach, raising it up there to that executive and board level, and implementing a holistic program. Sure, MFA, phishing resistant passkeys is one thing, but it's not the only thing that organizations need to do. So, taking that view, treating cybersecurity and using frameworks like we have in Australia with the Essential Eight is a really good starting point. And insurers, I know that insurers look to frameworks like that to assess risk. So if you're compliant with that in all of those eight, then that certainly lifts the cybersecurity, reduces the risk profile significantly.
Yeah. So, what are some of the success stories you can share for the education sector within Australia and the APJ region that are worth highlighting?
Yeah, look, I'd love to be able to share individual names of schools and universities, but that's not something that we can share. But what I can say is, a range of schools, independent schools and state schools in Australia. Many universities have all deployed this at various levels. Some are going down to the individual student. Some are sticking with the staff because you can't use a mobile phone in a classroom. So what do you use in that environment? But there's well over 100 schools that are deploying it at various levels in this country today, and the university sector is much more advanced in deploying that to academic staff and to students as well, making that available. So, and this is happening in the Asia Pac region as well. So, we're seeing progress in countries like Singapore and Japan now. As we started off with, that momentum is really starting to build. And because of the sensitive nature of information in this education space, really pleasing to see that things are moving forward.
Okay, well, just to shift the focus a little bit from the education sector to Yubico directly, you also just recently launched a new global channel program called Ubination Partners. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So look, in our part of the world, we work exclusively with partners. We sell everything through our channel partners. So we need them to be enabled to be able to get the message out there and help organizations move to passkeys or phishing resistant authentication. So the Ubination Partners program is really a program that focuses on our reseller partners, give and accelerate their success. So we're giving them tools, we're giving them training, we're giving them an incentive program. So it's a holistic program. But we've had this something similar with our partners for a while, but this really takes it up a notch and makes it a much more structured and focused program to guarantee their success in getting the YubiKeys out there to all organizations, not just schools.
And some of these partners will be focused on the education sector, or at least they'll have a
Yep.
part of their business that looks after that.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So is there any other Yubico news that we need to know about?
Well, this week we have opened a hub, our regional headquarters in Singapore. So that's gives us that follow the sun. So we have a regional headquarters in Sweden, in Europe, and the US, and now Singapore. So that's a good thing for us in the region. It brings Yubico closer to the market. That will accelerate the delivery, the support that customers will get by having that capability right here in our APJ region.
Probably also means more trips to Singapore for you as you
Well,
oversee the region.
that's comes with the territory, I'm afraid.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully you can get to make a few duty-free purchases. There's always a side benefit to international travel. So, what is your final message to educators and the industry that is watching, listening, and reading?
Yes, look, education is critical. It shapes the next generation. We think getting cyber hygiene on the agenda early is critical because the world in which the students of today will enter will be fully digital. The classroom environment, as we said, is moving that way. So we need to protect digital identities of the students and encourage good cyber hygiene. So that's our message. Lift the discussion away from a technology discussion to a business discussion. The duty of care that educators have with our children is critical. So protecting their digital identity is also critical. The industry is making tools available such as passkeys to do that, and we would certainly encourage a rapid adoption of that to do the right thing and protect the next generation here.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, because a lot of schools do not want students to be using mobile phones during,
Mm.
learning times. I mean, having that
Yep.
physical key is a major differentiator.
It certainly makes it a lot easier and it certainly makes it a lot more secure.
Well, Geoff Schomburgk, the Regional Vice President for APJ at Yubico, thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations on the new regional hub, and I look forward to
Thank you.
speaking with you again in the future.
Always a pleasure, Alex. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.